Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I apologize that there has been a delay for me making videos. I have had a pretty busy past month of March, so I definitely want to get caught up by the end of today. So you will be getting two videos today for the price of one. And for this particular video, I thought it'd be interesting to touch upon a film that I find to be sort of a classic when it comes to Italian mobster slash gangster films. And this film is titled none other than A Bronx Tale, which you can see by the title as well as thumbnail. And I find this one to be rather unique from a lot of other gangster style films that I've seen over the years, and I thought it'd be interesting to kind of touch upon it and discuss a little bit of the story as well as the characters that are involved. Now, Calogero Anello is the main character, and he is a teenager in the 1960s. I believe it's probably earlier in 1960s, and he lives none other than the Bronx. And you'll see how he gets involved with this local gangster named Sonny, and how eventually he's sort of caught up in between the gangster world and the sort of normal world where there's just innocent bystanders, including his family and people he knows, things like that. So there's that part of the film that I find to be quite interesting, because usually these kinds of films tend to focus purely on the gangsters and how their world is either kind of glamorized or not only that, but made to look very cruel and violent and scary. Usually these kinds of films immerse themselves into that world. They never touch upon people who are kind of caught up in the mix of everything and are not necessarily part of the gang, but maybe tied to the gang in some shape or form. And this is sort of the relationship that exists between Sonny and Calogero. Sonny tries to be all kind of nice to him and, give him like incentives, basically monetary incentives, to kind of sort of do things for him. And again, there's also a certain level of fear that comes with this local gangster Sonny, because he kind of has a little bit of control over the neighborhood, because you'll notice how a lot of innocent bystanders are afraid to stand up to him because themselves or even one of their family members could end up being killed for it. And you sort of see this in the beginning when Sonny is being accused by the cops of doing something wrong. And in order for the cops to kind of prove that he's done something illegal or criminal, they try to ask people, in particular the main character Calogero, about whether or not Sonny was involved with something illegal that happened. And Sonny, and you'll also see too Lorenzo, who's the father of Sonny, who's played by none other than Robert De Niro, tries to keep what exactly happened under wraps, because again, they are afraid for their livelihoods. And it's kind of established like really early on that the level of mobility for these people, especially living in the Bronx, is very very limited. Their community is not that strong financially. Lorenzo, I think he just drives a bus for a living, if I'm not mistaken, the main character's father, Calogero. So you see how they have they feel kind of, I guess, trapped by their surroundings. And I like how the film really illustrates the setting of the Bronx and how everyone's kind of tight knit together. There's not a lot of economic opportunity, and the economic opportunity that is there is very uh, low income. So you really do see how these gangsters kind of take advantage of that, especially with Calogero in the beginning when Sonny is, monetarily incentivizing him to do things that are probably not necessarily legal. Um, and you sort of see how people get tied up into these things, and it's not necessarily just, it's not the gangsters and their gangster world um, that are impacted. It's the people that surround that gangster world as well. And I kind of liked how that film focused on that, because there's a lot of other gangster films that I've seen where it's all just about these criminals and all the really like heinous and glamorous lifestyles that they live, and it's never about the other average people that get mixed up in it, because we think that oh, you know, it's just, gangsters killing gangsters. No, there's other people that surround that world that again end up witnessing all these crimes and end up being impacted. And you clearly see how uh, Lorenzo and Calogero are impacted by this, and how it kind of strains their relationship when Lorenzo finds out that Calogero is doing some work for Sonny. And Calogero's life gets even more complicated when a teenage girl comes into his life that is um, of a different race and of a different community, which again, back in the 1960s wasn't necessarily, kind of endorsed, unfortunately. And so you sort of see that narrative as well being focused on, and how that sort of relates to the um, surroundings and where they live. And again, I really enjoyed the relationship between the father Lorenzo and Calogero. I thought the actors did a very uh, great job in portraying this relationship, especially considering the very difficult circumstances um, that are sort of intertwined within their lives, um, that or sort of that intertwines their lives together. Um, and you can really see the dedication that Lorenzo has in trying to kind of protect his son. And, you can really see him trying to uh, push him away from that uh, world of of the gangsters. But on the other hand, it's very difficult for him to bring Calogero out of it, especially when Calogero, feels very limited with the circumstances that he's in, because, his family doesn't come from a place of upstanding wealth uh, or opportunity. So you really see how that ends up really kind of impacting him, and him wanting to have that lifestyle and be sort of part of a community, so to speak. And I think it really highlights uh, some important things that were part of the time period, um, and also can be relatable today as far as, economic opportunity and how crime sometimes ends up kind of taking advantage of that uh, situation and trying to make the bystanders' lives not only more difficult, but also trying to sucker them in so that they can live a better life because they have all of the money and power within that community. So again, it really brings up some interesting concepts that I think are important to kind of understand. And I think they can definitely be relatable to people regardless of the time period. Um, but I think that's really all I can say about this film without really giving too much away. And I kind of liked too how this film didn't really end on a fully uh, resolute note. In other words, there was sort of a bittersweet uh, mix in there that I think is not only realistic, but grounded grounded in the messaging that it's trying to send to the audience. So I think it is definitely worthy of your time if you're interested. But I think that's really all I could say about it without really giving too much away. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.